This is exercise 16.3, utilization and exporting of item types. In this exercise, we will explore the item type fields within the element properties and then attach an item type and export the active item types within the model. So let's start off by opening Roadway corridors TGN file located within the chapter 16 subfolder. So once the file loads, let's make sure that the multimodal view is active in the lower left corner. Let's also make sure that we have the correct files referenced in. So we need to make sure we have the geometry and the terrain file referenced in. So we're good there. So now in the 3D view, let's select any asphalt mesh on the roadway. And then notice in the properties that the item type is already attached, which is the asphalt concrete surface here. The description field is currently set to none, but we need to go ahead and update that so that the pay items and the units fields populates. So go ahead and click the description field drop down arrow, and then we can select the ACS mix PG 64-22 grading D. And then once that option is selected, we can see that the pay item and the unit fields automatically updates there. So then we can go ahead and select the mesh below the asphalt surface and notice that the different item type is attached. So go ahead and click the description field drop down arrow and notice that there are different options compared to those for the asphalt surface. But for this exercise, we're only going to calculate the top asphalt surface. So let's go ahead and add a calculated value for the asphalt concrete surface. So let's go ahead and reference Chapter 8 of the TDOT Roadway Design Guidelines. Chapter 8, Section 411.01. You can see the calculation and the math to use to get to the tons that will be needed. So by default, the item type volume is in cubic feet. We need to convert to cubic yards and then use the first conversion to get to tons. So in table 8.2, we see that the density for our surface here is 3,816 pounds per cubic yard. So we do some math and then we see that our tons is 873. So now we can go back into ORD, and here under the details, we can add 873 tons. So now let's manually attach an item type to a single element, which can be done in the 2D or 3D model views. So let's go ahead and open Attach Item tool. It's under Open Rows Modeling, Utilities, and Item Types. Within the Attach Item window, notice the different item type libraries on the left side. The ones that have already been used in the file, so 303, 307, and 411, will show as active and appear on the top of the list. Scroll down to 801 item type library and then select the seating item type. So click in the description field drop down arrow and then select seating without mulch. And then we'll leave the other fields as is, but you could add footnotes or details if desired. And then note that you can select as many item types as desired to attach to an element. However, the same item type cannot be attached to the same element multiple times. So next we need to select the element in the model to attach the item type to. So go ahead and select the cut slope on the north side of the road in the 3D model. And then notice that the seating item type is added to the properties. So now when we select the item in the 3D model, we see that the description and pay item and units is already filled in. And then we can go ahead and close that attach item window. So now let's go ahead and calculate the value for seating. So again, back to Chapter 8 of the Roadway Design Guidelines. We can see in Section 801.03 the formula that we got to use. So by default, this item type is attached to a mesh without a volume. So within the selected mesh properties, look under the civil quantities and take a note of the top sloped area, which equates to 258,644.18 square feet for the selected element. So the slope on the north side of the roadway. You notice that there's two areas are shown, top sloped area and then the planar area. The top slope area looks at the 3D top surface considering the slopes, while the planar area only looks at the 2D top view, which means these values will be slightly different depending on how varying the slopes are within the mesh. If the entire element has a slope of 0, the two areas would be the same. Note that the top sloped area cannot handle vertical faces. In general, the software has issues with the vertical faces, so it is recommended to avoid them and instead use the near vertical slope. So to convert this area to units, we'll simply divide by the 1,000 per the equation in Chapter 8, and then multiply the value by how many phases of construction the seating will be needed for. So assuming we only have one phase of construction for this exercise, the value would be 258.64. So then we can go ahead and update the details here under the seating. So this would just be 259 units. So now let's look at the export process. So let's open the Import-Export tool under Open Roads Modeling, Utilities, and Item Types. Select the Items icon and the Export option. We'll only export the active model, but if necessary, you could export all models. So let's leave all the other settings as is, and then click the ellipses next to Export To and browse to any location on your computer where you wish to save the separate exported Excel files for each of the 3 digital item type libraries. Then once you select your location, go ahead and click Export. And then it's important to note that it is recommended to create a folder for the export so that all the files are contained in an easily accessible location. So once they export, I went ahead and created a folder on my desktop and added the files in. And there are multiple Excel files named after each active item type library. So we can go ahead and open up one. So here you should see a header tab and then the applicable item type tab. So within this other tab, so this one is seating, we can go ahead and click on that one. Then you should see the pay items, the units, and all other fields attached to this item number. So if we had footnotes, they would appear here along with this other details. So this concludes exercise 16.3, utilization and exporting of item numbers.